Okay, so the last little quote I have here is, "Here is the test to find out whether your mission on Earth is finished. If you're alive, it ain't." All right. Now, some of you may already know, but today's subject matter is pretty serious and somber. It is about the rape case at Stanford University, which really became well-known, infamous, we might say, because of the fairly recent sentencing by the presiding judge, Judge Persky. And that, how many of you do know about that sentence? Most of you, that this young man was convicted by a jury of 12 on 3 separate felony counts. In Jane Doe, the defendant was the victim, who is only known to us by Jane Doe, says, to him, 36 yeses had to be said to convict you of these 3 felonies, but you don't really get it yet. That's another whole issue. The point is that the judge, in his infinite wisdom, rendered a sentence that shocked the world. He gave a sentence of 6 months in county jail and 3 years probation for 3 felony counts of sexual assault. And that is significant on many levels, not the least of which is what it tells women our suffering is worth. And we are now going to start the readings, and we have 3 people that took part in this ordeal. We have 3 people represented today. Mike Rust has agreed graciously to play the unsympathetic part of Brock Turner. Unsympathetic because he is the convicted rapist. He is going to read excerpts from the statement that Brock submitted to the court. I am going to read Jane Doe's excerpt from her statement to the court, which many people are applauding and saying it is a statement in sentiment, at least, and in impact comparable to Martin Luther King's letter from the Birmingham jail. If you've never read that, it is powerful. If you didn't understand at some point why the black race was out of patience, read the letter. And so I'm going to now introduce our first reader, Michael Buck.
Now, this is coming from Brock Turner's statement to the court, addressing his time and what happened that night after he had moved to Stanford and found himself accused of rape. During this discovery of what I thought was a college lifestyle, I also had the opportunity to witness on multiple occasions people being intimate at parties that involved alcohol. I remembered attending gatherings with the swim team where these things were not only accepted, but almost encouraged for the freshmen to experience. Over the course of a couple months at school, I grew more accepting of these characteristics and began thinking of it as normal behavior for one to meet people of the opposite sex at parties that involved drinking. The swim team set no limits on partying and drinking, and I saw the guys take full advantage of these circumstances, while I was shown to do the same. I witnessed countless times the guys that I looked up to go to parties, meet girls, and take the girl they just met back with him. I was completely consumed by my poor judgment and ill thought and actions. There isn't a day where I wish I hadn't gone and where I wish I can make the choice to never consume alcohol again. I never want to attend a social gathering that involves alcohol or any situation where people make decisions based on the substances they have consumed. I never want to experience being in a position where it will have a negative impact on my life or someone else's ever again. I've lost 2 jobs solely based on the reporting of my case. I wish I was never good at swimming or had the opportunity to attend Stanford, so maybe the newspapers wouldn't write stories about me.
The letter, the statement offered to the court by Jane Doe. Your Honor, if it's all right, the majority of this statement I would like to address to the defendant directly. You don't know me, but you've been inside me, and that's why we're here today. On January 17th, 2015, a quiet Saturday night, I went to a party with my younger sister. It was the only night I would get to be with her, so I went with her to a frat party. On the way, I joked that undergrad guys would have braces. I was past college and had a full-time job. I called myself Big Mama because I knew I'd be the oldest one there. I was wearing a beige cardigan, which my sister laughed about and said I looked like a librarian. So, when I got there, I made silly faces, let my guard down, and drank liquor too fast, not factoring in that my tolerance had significantly lowered since college. The next thing I remember, I was in a gurney in a hallway. I had dried blood and bandages on the backs of my hand and elbow. I thought maybe I had fallen and was in an admin office on campus. I was very calm and wondering where my sister was. A deputy explained I had been assaulted. I still remained calm, assured he was speaking to the wrong person. I knew no one at that party. When I was finally allowed to use the restroom, I pulled down the hospital pants they had given me and went to pull down my underwear and felt nothing. I still remember the feeling of my hands touching my skin and grabbing nothing. I looked down and there was nothing. The thin piece of fabric, the only thing between my vagina and everything else, was missing, and everything inside me was silenced. I still don't have words for that feeling. In order to keep breathing, I thought maybe the policeman used scissors to cut them off for evidence. Then I felt pine needles scratching the back of my neck and started pulling them out of my hair. I thought maybe the pine needles had fallen from a tree. My brain was talking my gut into not collapsing because my gut was saying, "Help me, help me." I shuffled from room to room with a blanket wrapped around me, pine needles trailing behind me. I left a little pile in every room I sat in. I was asked to sign papers that said rape victim, and I thought something has really happened. My clothes were confiscated, and I stood naked while the nurses held a ruler to various abrasions on my body and photographed them. The 3 of us worked to comb the pine needles out of my hair, 6 hands to fill 1 paper bag. To calm me down, they said it's just the flora and fauna. Flora and fauna. I had multiple swabs inserted into my vagina and anus needles for shots, pills, had a Nikon pointed right into my spread legs. I had long pointed beaks inside me and had my vagina smeared with cold blue paint to check for abrasions. After a few hours of this, they let me shower. I stood there examining my body beneath the stream of water and decided I don't want my body anymore. I was terrified of it. I didn't know what had been in it, if it had been contaminated, who had touched it. I wanted to take off my body like a jacket and leave it at the hospital with everything else. On that morning, all I was told was that I had been found behind a dumpster, potentially penetrated by a stranger, and that I should get retested for HIV because results don't always show up immediately. But for now, I should go home and get back to my normal life. Imagine stepping back into the world with only that information. They gave me huge hugs, and I walked out of the hospital into the parking lot wearing the new sweatshirt and sweatpants they provided, as they only had allowed me to keep my necklace and shoes. My sister picked me up, face wet from tears and contorted in anguish. Instinctively and immediately, I wanted to take away her pain. I smiled at her. I told her to look at me. I'm right here, I'm okay, everything's okay, I'm right here, my hair is washed and clean. They gave me the strangest shampoo. Calm down and look at me. Look at these new sweatpants and sweatshirt. I look like a PE teacher. Let's go home. Let's eat something. She did not know that beneath my sweatsuit, I had scratches and bandages on my skin. My vagina was sore and had become a strange dark blue from all the prodding. My underwear was missing, and I felt too empty to continue to speak. That I was also afraid, that I was also devastated. That day, we drove home and for hours later sat in silence, and my younger sister held me. My boyfriend did not know what happened, but called that day and said, I was really worried about you last night. You scared me. Did you make it home okay? I learned I'd called him in the night in my blackout, left an incomprehensible voicemail, that we had spoken on the phone, but I was slurring so heavily he was scared for me and repeatedly told me to find my sister. Again, he asked, what happened last night? Did you make it home okay? And I said yes and hung up to cry. I tried to push it out of my mind, but it was so heavy I didn't talk. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I didn't interact with anyone. After work, I would drive to a scheduled place to scream. I didn't talk, I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I didn't interact with anyone, and I became isolated from the ones I loved most. For over a week after the incident, I didn't get any calls or updates about that night or what happened to me. The only symbol that proved that it hadn't just been a bad dream was a sweatshirt from the hospital in my drawer. But one day I was at work scrolling through the news on my phone and came across an article. In it I read and learned for the first time about how I was found unconscious with my hair disheveled, long necklace wrapped around my neck, bra pulled out of my dress, pulled up off my shoulders. I just pulled off my shoulders and pulled up above my waist. That I was butt naked all the way down to my boots with my legs spread apart. That I had been penetrated by a foreign object, by someone I did not recognize. This was how I learned what happened to me. sitting at my desk, reading the news at work. I learned what happened to me the same time everyone else in the world learned what happened to me. That's when the pine needles in my hair made sense. They didn't fall from a tree.
This is from Judge Persky's ruling. And I just want to, before I give my tentative decision, read something from Jane's statement, which I think appropriate. As she writes, I think this is relevant. You should never have done this to me. Secondly, we should never have made me fight so long to tell you you should never have done this to me. But here we are. The damage is done. No one can undo it, and now we both have a choice. So as she writes, the damage is done. The role of the court at sentencing is to essentially follow the roadmap that our system of criminal justice sets out for the court in sentencing decisions. It's not completely an unbridled discretion. It is constrained by factors that are contained in the rules of court. And so I've tried to do that to the best of my ability. And my tentative decision is to grant probation, as recommended by the Adult Probation Department, and that the defendant will serve 6 months in county jail and to comply with the recommendations of probation as contained in the report, as will be slightly modified. And I understand that, as I read, that Jane's life has been devastated by these events, not only the incidents that happened, but by the criminal process, which has had a debilitating impact on people's lives, most notably Jane and her sister. And in my decision to grant probation, the question that I have to ask myself again, consistent with those rules of the court, is state prison for this defendant an antidote to that poison? Is incarceration in state prison the right answer for the poisoning of Jane's life? And in trying to balance the factors and the rules of the court, I conclude that it is not, and that justice would best be served ultimately with the grant of probation. Let me go through the rules of court because there is a limitation on probation eligibility, and that's due to the charge of the Penal Code. And pursuant to the Penal Code, this is a case where the probation is prohibited except in unusual cases where the interest of justice would be best served, and in this case, the court is directed to apply the criteria of the rule to evaluate whether the statutory limitation on probation is overcome. Is this an unusual case where the interest of justice will be best served? And based on those criteria and the probation officer's recommendations, as it reads, the fact or circumstance giving rise to the limitation on probation is, in this case, substantially less serious than circumstances typically present in other cases involving the same probation limitation, states the probation officer. And as the probation officer alluded to, I, Judge Persky, believe the fact that alcohol was present and concluded that this would be a basis for overcoming the statutory prohibition on probation, that because alcohol was involved, he could be provided with probation. Thank you, Judge Persky.
We will continue now with the readings, starting again with Brock Turner, as represented by Mike Rust.
All I can do from these events moving forward is prove to everyone who I really am as a person. I know now that I've been placed on probation, I will be able to benefit society for the rest of my life. I want to earn my college degree in any capacity that I'm capable to do so. And in accomplishing this task, I can make the people around me and society better through the example I will set. I've been a goal-oriented person since my start as a swimmer. I want to take what I can from who I was before the situation and use it in my abilities moving forward. I know I can show people who were like me the dangers of assuming what college life can be like without thinking about consequences one might have to face if one makes the same decisions I made. I want to show what people's lives can be like and the impact they can have on them with this culture surrounded by binge drinking and the sexual promiscuity that protrudes through what people think is at the core of being a college student. I want to demolish the assumption that drinking and partying are what make up a college lifestyle. I made a mistake, I drank too much, and my decisions hurt someone. But I never meant to intentionally hurt the defendant. My poor decision-making and excessive drinking hurt someone that night, and I wish I could just take it all back.
Jane Doe's letter is exceedingly long and seriously excerpted for this service. And so we're going to move on to the trial. And she tells us that Brock, had said the night that he was arrested, the night of the rape, that he didn't remember. He wouldn't recognize her if he saw her. He didn't remember her. He didn't know her name. Wasn't sure if he had learned it. That he didn't remember what happened, how they got to the dumpster, all that stuff. And then he learned that she was totally unconscious this whole time and had no memory of anything. And so she says, so 1 year later, as predicted, a new dialogue emerged. Brock had a strange new story. Almost sounded like a poorly written young adult novel with kissing and dancing and hand-holding and lovingly tumbling onto the ground. And most importantly in this new story, there was suddenly consent. Consent. 1 year after the incident, he remembered, oh yeah, by the way, she actually said yes to everything. So he said he had asked if I wanted to dance. Apparently, I said yes. He had asked if I wanted to go to his dorm. I said yes. Then he asked if he could finger me, and I said yes. Now, most guys don't ask, can I finger you? Usually there's a natural progression of things unfolding consensually, not a Q&A. But apparently I granted full permission. He's in the clear. Even in his story, I only said a total of 3 words, yes, 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 before he had me half naked on the ground. Future reference. If you're confused about whether a girl can consent, see if she can speak an entire sentence. You couldn't even do that. Just one coherent string of words. Where was the confusion? This is common sense, human decency. According to him, the only reason we were on the ground was because I fell down. Note, if a girl falls down, help her get back up. If she's too drunk to even walk and falls down, do not mount her, hump her, take off her underwear, and insert your hand inside her vagina. If a girl falls down, help her up. If she's wearing a cardigan over her dress, don't take it off so you can touch her breasts. Maybe she's cold. Maybe that's why she wears the cardigan. Next in the story, 2 Swedes on bicycles approach you and you ran. When they tackled you, why didn't you say, stop everything? Everything's okay. Go ask her. She's right over there. She'll tell you. I mean, you just had to ask for my consent, right? I was awake, right? When the policeman arrived and interviewed the evil Swede who tackled you, he was crying so hard he couldn't speak because of what he had seen. Your attorney has repeatedly pointed out, well, we don't know exactly when she became unconscious. And you're right. Maybe I was still fluttering my eyes and wasn't completely limp yet. But that was never the point. I was too drunk to speak English, too drunk to consent way before I was on the ground. I should have never been touched in the first place. Rock stated at no time did I see that she was not responding. If at any time I thought she was not responding, I would have stopped immediately. Here's the thing. If your plan was to stop only when I became unresponsive, then you still do not understand. You didn't even stop when I was unconscious anyway. Someone else stopped you. 2 guys on bikes noticed I wasn't moving in the dark and had to tackle you. How did you not notice while you were on top of me? You said you would have stopped and gotten help. You say that, but I want you to explain how you could have helped me, step by step. Walk me through this. I want to know, if those evil Swedes had not found me, how the night would have played out. I'm asking you, would you have pulled my underwear back on over my boots, untangled the necklace wrapped around my neck, crossed my legs, covered me, picked the pine needles from my hair, asked if the abrasions on my neck and bottom hurt? What would have happened to me? That's what you've never had a good answer for. That's what you can't explain even after a year. I'd like to now address some issues that you brought up in your statement, Brock. You said, being drunk, I just couldn't make the best decisions, and neither could she. Alcohol is not an excuse. Is it a factor? Yes. But alcohol was not the one who stripped me, fingered me, had my head dragging against the ground, with me almost fully naked. Having too much to drink was an amateur mistake that I admit to, but it is not criminal. Everyone in this room has had a night when they regretted drinking too much or knows someone close to them who has had such a night. Regretting drinking is not the same as regretting sexual assault. We were both drunk. The difference is I did not take off your pants and underwear, touch you inappropriately, and run away. That's the difference. You asked if I wanted to get to know her. You said I should have asked for her number rather than asking her to go back to my dorm. I'm not mad that you didn't ask for my number. Even if you did know me, I would not want to be in this situation. My own boyfriend knows me, but if he asked to finger me behind a dumpster, I would slap him. No girl wants to be in this situation. Nobody. I don't care if you know their phone number or not. You said stupidly, I thought that it was okay for me to do what everyone around me was doing, which is drinking. I was wrong. Again, you're not wrong for drinking. Everyone around you was not sexually assaulting me. You were wrong for doing what nobody else was doing, which was pushing your erect dick in your pants against my naked, defenseless body, concealed in a dark area, where partygoers could no longer see or protect me, and my own sister couldn't find me. Sipping Fireball is not your crime. Peeling off and discarding my underwear like a candy wrapper to insert your finger into my body is where you went wrong. Why am I still explaining this? You said you are in the process of establishing a program for high school and college students in which you speak about your experience. to speak out against the college campus drinking culture and the sexual promiscuity that goes along with that. Down with Jack Daniels, down with Sky Vodka. If you want to talk to people about drinking, go to an AA meeting. You realize having a drinking problem is different than drinking and then forcefully trying to have sex with someone. Show men how to respect women, not how to drink less. Drinking culture and sexual promiscuity that goes along with that like a side effect, like fries on the side of your order. Where does promiscuity even come into play? I don't see headlines that read, Brock Turner guilty of drinking too much and the sexual promiscuity that goes along with that. Campus sexual assault. That's your first PowerPoint slide. Rest assured, you failed to fix the topic of your talk. I will follow you to every school you go to and give a follow-up presentation. Lastly, you said, I want to show people that one night of drinking can ruin a life. A life. One life. Yours. You forgot about mine. Let me rephrase for you. I want to show people that one night of drinking can ruin two lives. You and me. You are the cause, I am the effect. You had me dragged through this hell with you, dipped me back into that night again and again. You knocked down both our towers. I collapsed at the same time you did. If you think I was spared, came out unscathed, that today I ride off into the sunset while you suffer the greatest blow, you are mistaken. Nobody wins. We have all been devastated. We have all been trying to find some meaning in all this suffering.
For the sake of time, I'm just going to summarize Judge Persky's decision, which boils down to 3 items that you can pull directly from here. And those are based on, 1, the penal code allows him, due to the youth of the defendant, to question the use of probation. And the 3 factors that he uses are, 1, the defendant was young, and he was legally intoxicated. So he was not, as he states, morally culpable in this situation. Not morally culpable because he was drunk. Now, based upon the multitude of letters of reference that he received, and based on the guidance of the penal code, he didn't really believe that prison was a good place for Brock because the community really liked him and that prison would have an adverse effect on Brock. And he didn't think that that was right, given Brock's potential. And the final decision that he made, in the mitigating circumstances, was that he had no previous criminal record. Even though there was video evidence showing Brock, underage, consuming recreational drugs, as well as a pending minor in possession case that was ongoing. But again, he didn't feel that those were warranted in affecting the decision on young Brock, who had such a bright potential future for his community. So that is Judge Persky's decision. Those are his words and the reasons that he decided, typically against a case like this where probation would not be allowed, to allow probation to occur because Brock was so special to his community. So, let's move forward.
I have a question.
Yes.
Was Brock Caucasian? Was he white?
I'm colorblind, and it doesn't state in the documentation on his color. There's no statement regarding his color or economic status.
What else is white? He's still alive.
Yeah, he's rather Nordic looking, as a matter of fact.